sec, but I need to, we're going to stream this live on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. So the recordings, I think that was the question, one of the questions. The recording is available. You should get it emailed to you automatically. But also, if you guys go to our YouTube channel, all of our live events stream live on YouTube, and it's saved there in its own playlist. So you can always go back and reference any older live events. We do these once every other week, I think, and they're all recorded on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. You'll also see some shorts on there, just quick clips. You'll see some longer videos. So there's some really good content in there that helps would help you guys understand a little bit more about what we do. So yeah, Jody, for anybody that can't attend, recording from Zoom will be emailed, but also our YouTube channel will have it as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We've got a good chunk of you guys on today, so thank you guys so much. And everybody was on time, which is a surprise, which is funny that it's a surprise, but it is. So as we go, guys and gals, throw your chat or your questions into the Q&A section, and I will do my best to answer them as we go. And again, if you drop in the chat at any time, anything that you guys are working on or industries you're targeting, I can go through some solutions that I've seen specific to those industries. If there's use cases, I can show, hey, here's the sensors we've used in the past for those use cases. Anything like that, it's open forum. Feel free to drop that stuff in there. In the meantime, I will share my screen. Looks like it's sharing. Oh, this is our YouTube channel. By the way, this is what I was just mentioning, right? We've got all of these different videos here, all these different shorts, just clips about all kinds of different things related to our product. We've got sensor unboxing videos, but then here's our live events. So if you go through here, you'll find you can sort by date and see all the live events that we have. And that's where this recording will go as well. But lots of good content in here. So I encourage everybody to subscribe to the channel and check out some of those videos. So, okay. So, I'll start this presentation just by a quick rundown of who we are, what we do. Those of you that already know, this could be a refresher. There's always new stuff. So, you just never know. You don't know what you don't know. So I would say listen in and just kind of catch some of the details that maybe you haven't caught before. And those of you that are brand new, fresh, have no idea who we are, this will be a good kind of kickoff for you. So, our company, myDevices, we simplify sensor deployments, and we work with some of the largest companies in the world. So T-Mobile, Sodexo, Aramark, Cisco, Honeywell, U.S. Department of State, Brightly, recently acquired by Siemens, Safety Culture. They have about 1 million or more users on their app called iAuditor, FSG, one of the largest electrical contractors in the United States, and many, many more above and beyond this. And really, what all of these companies have in common in terms of the service that we provide to them and their pain points prior to finding us was, they all have different sensor projects that they're looking to deploy. It could be, if I show some examples, it could be something like, what Safety Culture is doing, which is, they've got their iAuditor checklist form platform. It's a digital checklist platform. And they're looking to automate the input fields for the checklisting. So instead of a human being opening up the app and filling in details about whatever they're inspecting, could be an HVAC, fan speed, filter levels, vibration, could be a refrigerator, temperature, humidity, right? Rather than keying that in manually, we can deploy sensors that feed data into this platform that automate that process. Could be something like, Brightly, who I had mentioned. They've got all kinds of different, what they call, software for smarter assets, asset essentials, energy management, predictive maintenance platforms, all of these different pieces of software that they have. Well, sensors can enhance each of these different platforms. So when they're deploying solutions to their customers, they have their value proposition on their software, but now we've integrated sensors into those platforms. So now they can offer a holistic solution that embeds IoT into their existing offerings. So these are the types of projects that these clients of ours had and were working on prior to engaging with us. And what we were able to do is expedite their time to market 10, 12, 15 times, reduce their cost, and enhance what they were doing. So the way that we do that, if I move into the sensors section of our website, there's a few different pillars to what we're providing. Number one is this massive sensor catalog. So over 1,100 devices to date that we inventory and warehouse in our warehouse in Southern California. So when you look at the clients that I just mentioned, problem number one is, you have different use cases that different sensors are good for. Trash bin monitoring, soil sensing, occupancy, vape detection, leak detection, vibration, temperature, right? And if you have to go and procure these sensors from different manufacturers, that's problematic. From a logistical and operational standpoint, it gets very complicated. So most basic thing we do right off the bat is we become a single source for our clients to order any sensor for any use case. You don't know what you don't know about where your projects are going to go. Right now, you've got whatever your scope is. If your client, the deployment requires temperature monitoring, it requires leak detection, whatever you think it is, you don't know if that leak detection sensor in location 1 might be different than the leak detection sensor needed in location 2, just because one's going under an HVAC, the other's going under a washer dryer, right? And those could be two completely different sensors. You don't know that maybe in addition to leak detection, you might get some scope creep on the project, and now all of a sudden you need to monitor temperatures of boilers and hot water heaters or fan speed on an HVAC. So if you position yourself in a way where it doesn't matter, you're able to, you work with a company like ours to be able to quickly scale your deployments so that whatever comes at you in terms of where this project creeps to or however wide or narrow it gets, you can feel comfortable knowing that it doesn't matter because you've got a single vendor to source any sensor for any of those use cases. Now, the next step of that is actually being able to get the data out of these sensors into the place where it needs to go. And that's where we have what we call our universal sensor API. So what this is the middle ground between any sensor and any platform. So the complexity of getting sensor data into a platform is similar to the complexity of just procuring the hardware. And what I mean by that is all of these different sensors speak their own language. They all have their own process for configuring and provisioning and turning on and making them work. So if you needed to get, if we go back to one of the examples that we showed earlier, where we've got this inspection checklisting platform we want to get data into. And then also what I had mentioned before was you don't know what you don't know about the scope of the project. You think it's one thing, but as you get into the weeds of it, different leak sensors for different locations, different temperature sensors, different types of sensors. You didn't know that you needed a vibration sensor, but hey, there's an opportunity or a project calls for one. So from a procurement side and being able to order that, that's one thing. But if you were to just go out and get these devices, out in the wild from any, from standard distribution or even from the manufacturer directly, you're integrating every sensor one at a time into that platform where the data needs to go, whether it's inspection checklisting, an energy management platform, or whatever else. And again, that doesn't scale. A lot of these companies that we've talked to and we've now scaled projects with, when they first came to us, they were bottlenecked because they were standing up different, agile development teams within their business, a product manager and a scrum master and the whole thing for every sensor that they wanted to bring into their platform. But when they found us, not only do we ship and sell the hardware to them, but we also give them a single point of integration. So that's key. It's a single pipe that feeds the data out of all these sensors into any platform, but not only a single pipe, we're actually massaging and enhancing that data before sending it out of that pipe so that when it arrives into IBM Maximo to kick off a work order or SAP to do large scale enterprise asset management or anything else, the data structure and the data format is identical across any sensor and any device. So we've standardized the way they communicate and then we feed it out. So once you build the integration into our platform one time, you're now compatible with any sensor, which we're also going to ship and even drop ship directly to the end user. So now you've got this machine working for you in the background. You no longer have to think about where am I going to get the sensor? How am I going to program it? How am I going to decode it? You just think about what's the solution I'm trying to deploy. So I can work back with myDevices to tell them my requirements and they can deliver. And then you guys can deploy the solution and service the customer with value added to existing platforms that you may already have or that your customer may already have. So those are the two big things. It's the hardware acquisition as well as the data acquisition. Now, in terms of an interface where all of this lives, we have what we call our sensor application. So, long ago when we used to grab sensors and or purchase sensors, we have them in our office or in our warehouses, and I'm talking 7-8 years ago when LoRa sensors were, few and far between. They're in development. They were, everything was kind of new. We quickly found out that if you unbox a sensor that you got from the manufacturer and you look at the instructions, they say, download this app. And then you have a different sensor manufacturer, download this app, download it. And, at one point my phone had like 15 different apps, one for every sensor. And anytime I wanted to turn one on and make it work, I had to use the corresponding app. Or if I wanted to change how often the data sent, every 20 minutes, every 30 minutes, I had to, use that manufacturer's app to do that. So what this interface really is first of all, that sensor library that you see on our site, purchase any of those devices and you can activate them within this app immediately. And we white label the app, your logo, your colors run on your domain. So it becomes, your product. But within seconds, you can add an air quality sensor, a vibration sensor, tank level, all of these different sensors. And I can see the data, right? I can validate, okay, I'm getting air quality readings. That's what I expected. And okay, signal strength is good. So it's close enough to the gateway. And okay, the battery life is full. Okay, everything's good here. But if I wanted to do things like change how often the device is sending readings, I can go into the device settings section and I can do that right from here. I want to send readings every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes, whatever it is. Not having to go into each individual configuration app per sensor, it's all done in a single portal. I can also do things like identify the use case for this sensor. So this one is actually a vibration sensor. And if I go into the resources, you'll see a little bit more about, what it is and how it works and all of that. But in short, it's a magnetic sensor that goes on to a motor that can get the vibration readings for predictive maintenance. If you want to see it visually, this is the, kind of out of the box dashboard that we provide. So based on the vibration readings, we know if it's unacceptable or we know if it's good. And there's a key part of this, which is the class machine. So if I go back into the settings for this sensor, I can actually identify, I can tell the sensor, hey, we're putting you on a class 4 large soft foundation machine. And why that's important is because that chart that you saw over here, these ranges in terms of what's unacceptable and what's good are different depending on what type of machine that vibration sensor is going on. So being able to just go into a single app to modify those configurations quickly, within seconds, I've purchased the sensor, it's been delivered, I've turned it on, I see the data, and now I've tweaked it to say, okay, this is good data. It's clean, it's valuable, it makes sense. You can do the same thing with tank level monitoring as another example, right? I've added a tank level sensor. Here it is. This one is really interesting, right? I'll go into the device settings for this sensor as well. I can tell the sensor, hey, you're a level sensor. And first of all, I want you to send readings every 30 minutes. But most importantly, I am going to put you on a vertical trash bin or tank that's cylindrical. And that is 100 inches, let's say, high. I don't know what this is. It's inches. Yeah, 100 inches tall. And the sensor is sitting 5 inches over the top of the tank. All of those values are plugged in so that when we show the data, not only show the data, but send it through the APIs, which I'll show you in a second, but it's 6.4%, 7.7%. So we've taken a sensor, which if you were to buy from the manufacturer through standard distribution, it's a brick, essentially. That's what it is. You have to program it, update the firmware, do all this stuff that I'm showing you. You have to do programmatically, right? We've taken it, you turn it on, you scan it in, you see the data, you change some drop downs to match what you're trying to do. And now you're looking at it and saying, okay, yeah, this is accurate. This is good. And now you're ready to feed the data into its end destination. And we've got all these different options and ways to do it. You can feed it into S3, IoT Hub, Google BigQuery, PubSub, feed it over MQTT. You can send it over webhook, right? So we've got all these different ways. And then there's a full-on REST API as well, which I'll show in a sec, that allows you to do even deeper levels of integration. But in its base form, you would open up, let's say, a webhook, and then you would feed the data to some URL. If you need to transform the data further, you could do that to match how the data needs to be formatted for your system or whatever. But basically, you've now gone full end to end. You've identified a project, you've come to us and said, here's what we need to do. We've said, here's the sensors for it. you've turned them on, you've validated the data, you've tweaked the configurations to create the perfect, templated solution. And now you're feeding data, that clean data, into a work ticketing system, an energy management system, a building, whatever. But the data that's being fed in is not just, analog data coming off the sensor. It's enhanced valuable data like 72% full, or the door's been opened 32 times, or the energy used total last hour, last 24 hours, or even average bill amount, right? You can take sensor data and add formulas on it to get a bill amount or a carbon credit amount, right? That's something that's been really common lately. All of these different things. So when you feed it into whatever platform it's going to, the data is enriched and valuable. So now the final piece to round all of that out is that we also have professional services, things like installations. So we've got the ability to install. We've got 50,000 installers throughout North America. So they actually can go on site, plug the sensors in, turn everything on, validate that the network coverage is good, and the whole thing. So it's everything end to end, all the way from sensor. Well, it even says here, right, starting from even just sensor advice, like, hey, what sensor should I use? Here's the project requirements, and then sourcing the hardware. And then we provision it. By provisioning, we mean, being able to connect it to the LoRa network before shipping, so it's plug and play when it arrives, or activating it on the cellular network if it's a cellular sensor, right? Drop shipping directly to the end customer location, and then sending the installers out to collect the drop ship and then install it, and then beyond. And then we give you the tools needed to manage that deployment long term. So going back to kind of the start, I had mentioned the types of clients we work with or currently are working with. When you look at how we've enhanced their operations and their ability to go to market with IoT, that can be replicated across any business segment, any vertical. We work with companies in agriculture, all the way to industry 4.0, manufacturing, distribution, warehousing, food safety, healthcare, senior living. It's so horizontal. It's on energy management, utilities, oil and gas, because there's really no limits. The only variable really in our process, like when I look at everything left to right, and you've got the ability to integrate into platforms and configure devices and provision and install and deploy and integrate. All of that's consistent. The variable is the sensors. And that's the part that's completely wide open for us. And not only the 1,100 or so that we have queued up already, but a lot of times our clients will come to us and say, hey, we need these sensors to work, and we can integrate them in under a day. It really is any sensor. So you've got 90% of what you need that's consistent over and over again, that we're just kind of packaging up and licensing to you. That's the API and the sensor app and the installation services and the warehousing, drop shipping. And then it just comes down to, okay, what sensors do we need to plug into this equation for your particular project? So anyways, I hope all of that is clear for you guys. I know I've rambled on for a bit, but hopefully the content was helpful. If you guys have questions, throw them into the chat at this point about anything I just said, and I'll go into more detail on it. Or if you guys have projects that you think would be a good fit for what I just said, let's talk it out. I'm happy to kind of go into the weeds on this call, or if you want to set up a separate call, we can one-on-one, we can do that as well. But in the meantime, while I wait for you guys to throw your chats or your questions into the chat, one thing that I would encourage everybody to do, if you guys are watching right now, is go to app.mydevices.com. I will throw this link into the chat. Can I have your email, please? Yeah, sure. Oh, you know what? My chat is only going to the host. Okay. I just put a link into the chat for everybody. So that link's going to take you to where what's on my screen right now. And no secrets here. I'll just throw my email into the chat as well. Feel free to email me there. So the link I put into the chat is going to take you to create a free account. Put in your first name. I'll walk through this right now. And if you guys could walk through this with me as I'm going, I think will be really interesting for you guys to set up your own accounts here. I'm going to do just like a random email here. And then we'll do webinar 7. Obviously create your own name, guys, because you won't be able to use this. once I use it, unless somebody beats me to the punch. What did I do? Did I do something wrong? Oh, I didn't put my phone number. All right, so this is a pretty, in terms of getting your hands on the product and digging in and really understanding the value quickly. So what I've done is just created an app, and you can see it used, I put webinar 715, that's the subdomain that it goes on. And this loading screen is actually showing a quick commercial for what we do, but it's actually loading up an app, and you'll see what it's done in just about a minute or so after it loads up. So it's going to create a realm for me, a demo realm. So the capabilities are very limited, but enough for you guys to see some value or some benefit in this sensor app portion. So once this loads up, it'll create an account and it'll have simulated sensors. I think it adds around 30 or so simulated sensors into the demo realm. So here it goes, and you'll see why it took so long to load. All of these sensors have been added to the account. You can see update data. We can actually push these purple buttons to send. You can see the data change. Those are sample payloads immediately. On the left here, you've also got dashboards. So it actually, not only did it add the simulated sensors, but it created some templated dashboards for different popular use cases. So within a minute of me plugging in that information, I've now got a full demo dashboard here, so you guys can that you can use to just really understand some of the capabilities of the product. So I encourage everybody to go on and create that free version of the app. The cool part about this is, with some limitations, you can actually open up an integration. So if I wanted to open up a webhook and put a URL in here, I could actually connect this to my own platform, whether it's just like a simple sandbox test platform, or we did this with MongoDB. We gave them this environment, and they were able to get data into the MongoDB platform, in under, I think it was like an hour or two after we sent them, they were able to get a webhook into their platform and get it working. So you can put, whatever data you want to feed the integration, and then go back into here and push the data. So I could just push some buttons, send some sensor data, and that would actually feed out of the webhook just to validate, can you connect to our API? And you'll see you'll be able to very quickly. You can also create your own dashboard. So if I push this plus button here, I can go on and just add a couple widgets here. Widget 1, coming from my example location. Let's use the air quality sensor, let's say. Okay, cool. There it is. Let's add maybe just like one more just to show some variance here. Widget 2, from my example location. Let's do, I don't know, reheat coil. What is that? Oh, it's a vibration. So let's just grab the acceleration on the x-axis for that one. And sure. Save. There it is. We can change colors on that or whatever. So I'm just kind of creating a very basic dashboard here, but now I can even lock it. But the cool thing is I can now share it too. So if I knew somebody's email, I could add them as a user to this dashboard, kind of like Google Sheets. Basically, you get access to it, but I can also just create a link. So you guys will see if I go into the chat here, I'll paste this in there. And if you guys go into the chat and click that link, well, I'll just show you, you'll be able to see this dashboard that I created with very limited permissions, view only. Yeah, you'll be able to see that. So anyways, just wanted to, I encourage you guys to try that free version of the app quickly, create a dashboard, view the existing dashboards, share the dashboard, and just kind of see how all that works. Question here, is it multi-tenant? Yeah, it is. Let me look at the specifics. So question, we installed 20 sensors for customer A, 30 for customer B, then set rules and push data to Snowflake for customer A and AWS for customer B. Yep, okay. So let's do that really quick, right? So let's go into our companies and locations. It's currently called example company and example location, but let's say we changed this from example location. Let's, to your example, let's call that customer A, right? By the way, this is why I said, guys, I love doing this on the spot stuff. It just makes it so much more real, right? I can't fake this. So address, I don't know. Avenue, that's our actually our older address, but whatever. So okay, so now I've got customer A, customer B. So that's broken down, and this would be just different groupings, different hierarchies. I've done this in the most basic level, like if it's one customer and they've got 2 locations, or it could be, however you want to break it down. But for the sake of this, we'll just keep going. I'm going to add a simulated device here. Now let's just add this temperature sensor into customer B's account or location. Okay, so now I've added a simulated temp sensor. So I've got customer B's got that sensor, customer A has a bunch of sensors, right? First of all, I can now go into the contacts and I can add a new contact, and this is customer, can I spell? Is the real question. Customer A at customer.com, right? They have access to this location only, and I'm going to give them owner permissions, add contact. Yep, I'm going to connect any alerts and reports that are set up. They're going to be associated with that. Okay, sweet. Now I can add another one, customer B, and I want to give them access to only their location, and I want to give them owner permission, customer B. Now, of course, this isn't a real email address, but they would get an email that is inviting them to join this account and see their data. You don't have to do this, by the way. A lot of our customers don't. They don't want them seeing this portal. They want them seeing the portal in Snowflake or wherever it's going to go, but just kind of showing all the different possibilities that you can do. So now they've gotten their permission set. By the way, I could also do like global permissions. So if I wanted to give somebody access to both locations and whatever, I think you kind of get the picture. So now I've added them with access, but more importantly, if I go into integrations now, and I would like to set up a webhook, I can do that, or push data to Snowflake. Okay, yeah, like this is going to go to Snowflake. We'll put that there. But the integration, what it's subscribing to might be just the refrigerator on customer B's location, for example, or it could be the full location, customer B location, or it could be customer A location. So we're able to select the, what sensors, what locations, what groups this integration is subscribed to. So I've got one integration going here. And now I can create a different AWS integration, let's say, for the second customer. So I would then go into AWS S3, let's say, build this integration, and they're going to subscribe to devices from customer A location, right? So those are the sensors are subscribed to. They're subscribed to alert uplinks as well, or alert notifications, as well as just basic uplinks. So hopefully that answers your question. If you have more on that, let me know. Or if there's anything further I should go to. Now, there is another, okay, great, yeah, no problem. So there's another layer to this on the backend console here that I think would be important. And there are some other questions. So while this is loading up, I will address those as well. Internal. See if I can, there we go. All right, so this is the backend console. I'll show this in a second. Let me just look at these questions quickly. And I think we're almost at time, by the way, too. So let me just rip through these. Can this work on private air gap network, or does it require? Yeah, it requires internet access. It's cloud-based. Everything we have is cloud-based. So yeah. If you have your own LoRa server or your own, yeah, if it's a LoRa deployment, you have your own LoRa server, you can route the data to us, after the fact. We've had that work as well. But if you're asking about like a full end-to-end on-prem, no, it would need internet access because we have all the microservices and everything running. It's all cloud hosted. When we share the dashboard link to connect, we need receiver credential to see. No, okay, good question. So if I understand the question correctly, you're asking, if I share this dashboard, do you need credentials for it? So this is part of the depths of hierarchy, right? So just a straight sharing of the dashboard, no, you can get this view that's view only. You don't need login credentials. You just click the link and you've got view access. However, the example that I just showed, where I added a contact, their email and everything, and set the locations and their access permissions, that would require an email password login. So when I invite somebody, they get an email that says, hey, join this location we just invited you to. The first thing it's going to do is tell you to create an account. But because you've created an account, you don't get this view, which is a very basic view only. You get your own access to something like this, where you can set up your own alerts and do all of that. So that's the different levels of user permissions. And then the next depth of that is in the backend console, where if you have your white label realm company, your company, but you want to offer white label realms to your clients who then, if you set up the pyramid that way, within this backend console, you can actually do that by adding an application and then creating a subdomain of your own existing domain. So that's also a different level of hierarchy that's even more in depth than the one I just showed, where you have admins of what we call a realm. So we've got the myDevices realm. Within the myDevices realm, we have anybody that's white labeled with us. So we've got this never-ending list of clients that are that have their own realms, and then you can have sub realms of those, and that's what the box on the right is. So that's a different level of hierarchy that you've got available. So and there's other tools back here which we don't have time to go into, like you can set up realm-wide integration. So every single sensor in this realm feeds into AWS or Snowflake or wherever else. There's device templates and other things as well. So which maybe we can get into on a more in-depth call later. So I'm gonna, I know we're up at time, so those of you that stayed late, really appreciate it. If there's last minute questions, feel free to drop those into the chat. And I'll get them answered. If they're quick, I'll get them answered now while I'm hanging out. Otherwise, I think this link works. mydevices.com/cam. Did I set that up? No, I didn't. Yeah, no, I did. mydevices.com/cam is what it is. I'll put it into the chat. That will take you to a link to schedule a call on my calendar if you'd like a one-on-one to go deeper into your projects or get your questions answered. So I put that link in the chat. Otherwise, I don't see any new questions coming in. Thank you guys so much for joining. Again, this recording will be on YouTube. It'll also get emailed out to you. And then, yeah, from there, if you guys have any questions, you can email me, jump on my calendar at that link that I showed, and would love to get on a one-on-one with you. Okay. Just waiting to see if there's any other questions in there. Don't think so. Oh no, link's a 404. Really? Okay, hold on before I go. No, it's working on my side here. Why don't I just, here's the direct link here. And then my email here as well. There's a Calendly link that I put in there you guys can use as well. It's just the direct. It's supposed to redirect to that, but you can just click that. So I'll just stay on here so you guys have a chance to copy that. But those of you want to drop, feel free to drop, and thank you so much for the